Opening statements began this week in the federal civil rights trial for Thomas Lane, Alex Kueng and Tou Thao. They are the three former Minneapolis police officers involved in the death of George Floyd. Their defense attorneys claiming that Floyd's death was a tragedy but not a crime. Bianca Ford is a former federal prosecutor. She joins us this morning. And Ms. Ford, thank you very much for being with us. This is going to be a battle between words and a videotape. We all saw what happened. So do you expect the defense to just blame Derek Chauvin, the man who's actually been convicted of murder?
I think that's definitely one of their strategies, though. We're going to hear them blame Derek Chauvin. We're going to hear them blame lack of training by the police department. And to be clear, this trial and this case is in part an indictment on this specific police department, but also policing in America. We see that this tragedy, the way that it unfolded, the key to this is the fact that it is going to change behavior in the sense of influencing the speak up culture or lack thereof that we see in police departments all over America. There's a saying that goes, culture trumps rules every time. So this case has the ability to really bring the culture that we heard described, that aspirational culture that we heard described in the state trial, to life, because it imposes real consequences for officers who choose not to speak up in the moment. And that is a really, really big deal.
But as a former prosecutor, if you were prosecuting this case, how concerned would you be about the pendulum swinging both ways? We've seen the George Floyd conviction. We saw the conviction of Kim Potter with regards to the death of Daunte Wright next door. We saw the Ahmaud Arbery case. You're right. There is that social justice movement, but we've also seen a city that has paid out $27 million to the family, and we've watched an officer now looking at life in prison. How concerned are you that the pendulum might swing the other way?
Sure. I mean, that's always a possibility. There's nothing that's guaranteed. I mean, I think that the justice in this case, regardless of the outcome, I think this case will have significant impact. I think there's a possibility that the jury in this case will be a lot more sympathetic to these defendants. You have two people who are relatively new to the force. You heard the defense make a thing about that particular defense, but you heard the prosecution say, hey, they're new. They were just trained. This training should have been fresh in their minds. So, I think there's going to be a lot that both sides can draw on. But I think the key in this case is really to keep it simple, because it's really not about training, right? We're going to hear a lot about training and what these officers were trained to do. But as we could see from the bystanders who didn't have police training, it was pretty obvious that a man was losing his life, and no one spoke up. And I think the key that the prosecution is going to have to dwell on is these men had the training to make a difference, to make a change. Imagine the heroism that would have come out if one of them had just had the sense to say, or insist rather, because we know that Lane did make some comments and suggestions, but when you hear the tone of it, there was really no urgency to influence behavior. So yes, the pendulum, there's always a risk, but I think that there is some strong evidence for why these officers should face the consequences of choosing not to act in the moment.
You actually pointed to the question I was going to ask you, which is the issue of common decency, regardless of what the law may say. If I'm a juror and I'm sitting in the jury and I'm listening to the evidence in this, I keep asking the question over and over again. You saw a man dying and you did nothing. You put a uniform on and you say you were there to serve and protect, but the question has to be asked, who are you serving and protecting? Are you protecting the man who's dying, or are you protecting the man whose knee was on his neck? Is that a fair assessment of the dilemma that the jury in this case will face?
I think so. You use the word common decency. I'd add humanity. Where was the humanity that day? You heard a lot of the testimony in the state trial about officers meeting people where they are, meeting people on their worst day, meeting people in crisis. And they were trained to basically provide the medical care and provide the treatment and provide the physical sort of arranging of Mr. Floyd's body that could have saved his life. But they chose not to. And why? Did they not value his humanity? Did they not see him as worthy enough? Was he not a life worth saving? I think if I'm on the jury, that piece of common sense that we heard one of the defense attorneys actually use, right? Bring your common sense to this case. Well, common sense swings both ways, because it was very obvious that this man could not breathe as he shouted, "I can't breathe," 25 times. And we saw him basically the life move out of his limbs as the officers continued to restrain him. That doesn't require intricate training. That is merely common decency and humanity.
Bianca Ford is a former federal prosecutor. She joins us from D.C. this morning. Ms. Ford, thank you very much for being with us.